Imagine walking into a room full of athletes, tall, lean, and strong. The usual image of an NBA player. Now picture someone completely different. A 6 feet 6 inches, 300-pound powerhouse. Not the fastest, not the most athletic, but undeniably dominant when he steps onto the court. Meet Kenneth Lofton Jr., the NBA's biggest underdog. He didn't fit the typical mold. But here's the thing. His build didn't stop him from becoming one of the most fascinating players in recent NBA history. How did this outlier go from being overlooked to becoming a major player in the league's future? Well, his story is far from conventional. And it's about time you heard what really happened. Kenneth Lofton Jr.'s rise to the NBA wasn't what anyone expected. When scouts first saw him, they weren't looking at an elite, refined player. They saw a 6 feet 6 inches kid, carrying 300 pounds who didn't quite fit the typical basketball prototype. He wasn't slim, fast, or agile in the way you would think an NBA star should be. Instead, what you saw was raw power, a bulldozer on the court. From a young age, Lofton had always been a giant compared to his peers, but it wasn't until later that he began to understand how to use his size to his advantage. While his physique made him the subject of jokes and memes on social media, it was also clear that Lofton had something the typical high flyer didn't: an unmatched ability to dominate with sheer force. His journey didn't get any easier as he made his way through youth basketball. The criticism began early. Coaches and scouts questioned if someone his size could really make it in a league that was obsessed with height, speed, and agility. His build wasn't a part of the mold, and it seemed like a major disadvantage. But Lofton didn't see his body as a problem. He saw it as a weapon. In 2021, Lofton's moment finally came. The world was watching as the USA youth basketball team prepared to take on some of the brightest young stars in the world at the FIBA U19 World Cup. On one side you had Victor Wembanyama, arguably the most hyped basketball prospect of all time, standing at 7 feet 4 inches, with a frame that made him look like a walking skyscraper. And on the other side you had Lofton Jr., who didn't exactly fit the traditional athletic profile, and yet he was about to put on a performance no one would ever forget. What happened next was nothing short of spectacular. As the game went on, Lofton completely outplayed Wembanyama. With every move, Lofton demonstrated that he wasn't just another big man lumbering around the paint. He was quick, he was tough, and he had a deep bag of tricks that gave him the ability to take on the most highly anticipated prospect in modern basketball. The game was intense, and with every possession, it was clear that Lofton's brute strength and basketball IQ were far more than just physical attributes. He wasn't just holding his ground, he was asserting dominance. He scored 15 of his 16 points in the second half, leading the USA team to a gold medal victory. Lofton's performance was a statement. Size doesn't matter in the NBA when you've got skill and an unrelenting drive. By the end of the game, even the MVP of the tournament, Chet Holmgren, who would go on to be a top NBA draft pick, said that Lofton should have been the real MVP. This moment wasn't just a victory for Lofton. It was a victory for every player who didn't fit the traditional mold but still had the heart to go toe-to-toe with the giants of the sport. After his stellar international performance, Lofton went on to play for Louisiana Tech, a school that, let's face it, didn't have the spotlight that major programs did. But Lofton quickly made it his own. In his first year, he became an absolute force in the NCAA. With his raw strength and finesse around the rim, Lofton averaged 12.2 points per game and shot an astonishing 57% from the field. That wasn't just good, that was phenomenal. But it wasn't just his scoring that made him a standout. Lofton had a knack for rebounding too. He averaged 7.5 rebounds per game, a number that might seem more impressive when you remember that he was a freshman playing against grown men. He even led the team in this category, becoming the first freshman to do so at Louisiana Tech since NBA legend Paul Millsap. Lofton's presence on the court became undeniable. And in a game that would define his career, he had a clutch moment. A buzzer beater in the NIT that sent Louisiana Tech to a third-place finish. As the ball left his hands, the game was tied. With seconds on the clock, Lofton dribbled through traffic, drove to the basket and scored the game-winning shot. It wasn't just a victory. It was a declaration that Lofton wasn't just going to play at the next level, he was going to dominate. But here's where things get interesting. While Lofton was doing all this, there were still many who didn't believe in him. Scouts looked at his size, his unconventional style, and they doubted whether he could translate to the NBA. In a league obsessed with explosive speed, agility, and height, Lofton didn't seem like a fit. Many assumed his style of playing, bullying his way down the court, using his size as an advantage, wouldn't make it at the professional level. But Lofton's performance against Wembanyama and Holmgren made everyone stop and rethink. Was this kid really just the fat guy? Or was he actually the missing piece the NBA needed? Despite the doubt, Lofton's undeniable talent caught the attention of the Memphis Grizzlies, who gave him a chance to prove himself. It was a risky move, but one that could pay off big time. Lofton had the kind of potential that couldn't be measured just by traditional stats. He could break down defenders with his footwork, outmuscle anyone in the paint, and even stretch the floor with an improving jump shot. His passing game too was vastly underrated. The Memphis Grizzlies knew something the critics didn't. Kenneth Lofton Jr. was a unique talent who could turn the NBA on its head if given the opportunity. Of course, not everyone was sold on Lofton. Social media was abuzz, with some fans mocking his physique and others questioning his longevity in the league. But for Lofton, it wasn't about fitting in, it was about standing out. Every meme that poked fun at his body was just another reminder of how different he was from the typical NBA player. And it wasn't long before the very people who mocked him started to realize just how wrong they were. His rise wasn't just about basketball skills. It was about proving that players didn't have to fit into a certain mold to succeed. Lofton Jr. became a symbol for those who didn't have the perfect body type but had something even more important: raw talent and an unrelenting drive to succeed. As of now, Lofton's future in the NBA is wide open. He's not just another big man. He's a player who has proven that skill, heart, and determination can defy any expectations. He's already proven he can compete with the best. But will the NBA ever truly embrace someone like him? There's no doubt that Lofton Jr. has a place in the league. His story is one of resilience, of breaking through barriers, and of rewriting the narrative about what it means to be a great basketball player. He might not look like the average NBA star, but he's becoming exactly that, a star. As the NBA continues to evolve, it's clear that players like Kenneth Lofton Jr. are the future. They don't fit the standard mold, but maybe that's exactly what the league needs. Lofton's story isn't just about size or physique. It's about talent, determination, and the ability to surprise everyone when they least expect it. So the next time you see him on the court, remember, you're not just watching the fattest player in the NBA. You're watching someone who just might change the game forever. What do you think? Can Lofton truly defy the odds? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.